I hate, I despise your religious festivals. Your assemblies of worship I cannot bear. Even though you bring me burnt offerings and grain offerings, I will not accept them. Though you pour me libations of wine, I will not drink them. Instead, take away from me the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the music of your harps, but let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never ending stream. Greetings, my name is Vibhor, and I will be presenting on the topic an analysis of the traditional to contemporary notion of justice in Christianity. When I talk about justice, justice is an abstract concept. It is very much difficult to analyze the meaning of the term justice because it means different things for different people. For some people, it means the equitable distribution of resources. For some, it might mean treating people equally. For other people, it might mean the upliftment of the backward classes. And for some, it might even mean the protection from atrocities. So the term justice means different things for different people, but something that we can understand is the notion of justice. And in today's discussion, I'm going to talk about the Christian notion of justice, and I'm going to cover the traditional to the contemporary aspect of the notion of justice in Christianity. Talking about the notion of justice as per Christianity, the traditional to contemporary notions have evolved over centuries due to the change in theological interpretations, societal values, and cultural shifts. When we talk about Christianity, we mostly are talking about the teachings of Jesus. The story of Jesus is one of forgiveness and reconciliation, and which gives a more merciful approach towards justice. The notion of Christian justice is mostly based on a balance between the judgment of God and the compassion towards fellow humans. So, somewhere or the other, we are following the model of retributive justice, which believes that if someone commits a wrong, then those people are punished for their actions either in this life or in the afterlife, which is completely different from the one practiced in the Old Testament, which follows the principle of an eye for an eye, which means if someone commits a wrong, then the wrong must be committed on him. But with the advent of Christianity, the teachings of Jesus in the New Testament, different elements have been introduced which are shaping the world towards a more reformative approach. In the modern time, the Christian theologians believe that the notion of justice is the notion that talks about the idea of salvation and the role of human efforts to provide equal treatment for everyone and the idea of grace. Therefore, in the modern time, we see that the liberalization and globalization has intervened the faith with society, and as such, now we promote the idea of marginalized community and focus on social justice as well. The modern Christians focuses on the idea of restorative justice. They believe that if someone commits a wrong, then they have the power, they should be forgiven and they should be restored to the society after giving them certain punishment and not entirely being focused on the punitive measures. But when we talk about this complete change in dynamics of Christianity, Christian notion of justice, we would see that even though the Christian dynamics have completely changed, even then there have been certain anomalies and there are certain debates going around different topics like the capital punishment or the LGBTQ plus rights, which brings around a tension between the traditional idea of justice and the modern idea of justice in Christianity. And therefore, this paper will focus on the idea of justice by covering the traditional approach and how it has been changed in the modern era. If we talk about the notion of justice in Christianity, we could say that uh, Christianity is based on justice. Justice is the foundational principle of Christianity because the core principle of Christianity says that all people are equal before the eyes of the God, that is the Creator, and therefore they have the right to be treated equally and justly in a fair manner, regardless of who they are, and that is why they have to be treated in a dignified manner because we all are the creations of God, and this is one of the main essential principles or core fundamental principle of Christianity, and has been mentioned throughout Bible. This concept of justice is also available in the Old Testament, which is also known as the Hebrew Bible, and they have used certain words like mispat, zidak, and sidak to describe justice, where mispat refers to fairness and equity, Zidak refers to righteousness and justice, and Zidak refers to charity and benevolence. And similarly, if we see the New Testament, there have been various instances where the teachings of Jesus have been taken in a way like the Jesus taught his follower that followers should love their enemies and do good to those who hate them. He also said that the poor will inherit the kingdom of God. The same has been mentioned in the chapter of Matthews. If we talk about the biblical foundation of justice, we can see that before the New Testament, the teaching of Old Testament was very much followed, and the concept of an eye for an eye was very much prevalent. But with changing time, it was realized that all humans are equal and the people should be more compassionate towards their fellow humans, and therefore this change allowed people to shift that particular view from the concept of an eye for an eye to a more retributive and reformative approach. If we talk about the traditional Christian theology, which was associated with justice, we see that the divine punishment and retribution was the core focus of the Christianity. But this belief that God would extract punishment or punishing the sinners in some way or the other was soon changed to divine righteousness, where it was believed that even though someone commits a sin, the God has the power to take him away from those sins, and which saw and gave a significant change in the idea of justice from the retributive approach to a more redemptive approach. Now, in modern time, the Christian theologians believe on God's love and grace as the central aspect of Christianity. They believe that justice is not about punishment but also about redemption. And in today's era, we focus primarily on the concept of social justice, the idea of social justice, and with the advent of globalization, the interfaith dialogue that was created therein embodies the idea of compassion and forgiveness, and which led to a complete shift on how Christians now see and perceive justice. If you talk about social justice in contemporary world, we could see that the main focus of Christianity was on an individual, the spiritual and moral aspect of faith, and they did not address the broader global issues. But with the advent of globalization, the Christianity was initially ignorant of other faiths and other religions, but with the advent of time they realized that if they want to go along with the global perspectives of justice, they have to take into consideration the idea of other faiths as well. So in the modern time, this has led to an advent in the interfaith dialogues. Now Christianity realizes that it is important to cooperate with people of other faiths and the importance of global justice. As the world goes through globalization and becomes more interconnected, justice also transcends from religion and take other boundaries as well. So this contemporary idea of justice adds along the idea of different concepts like poverty, human rights, environmental protections, and things like that as well. So this collaborative approach not only improves understanding by finding common grounds between the religions, but initially as the Christianity focused on individual, this also helps in finding inner peace and a self-centered approach of the things as well. So this modern perspective of Christianity has highlighted the importance of working collaboratively with people of different faiths and backgrounds, and has addressed the challenges of humanity is facing in the modern world. So talking about that traditional view, we have seen that the entire traditional view of Christian notion was based on the concept of equality, fairness and righteousness, and the modern context carries in itself the ideas and the life of Jesus, the teachings of Jesus, and similarly we have taken the commandments from the Old Testament and have included them in the traditional view. Similarly, there are various scriptural references like Proverbs 2:29-7, Isaiah 1:17 and Micah 6:8, which specifically talks about the idea of justice. One thing that cannot be removed when you talk about the idea of justice is the concept of church. So during the early times, that is during early Christianity, church was seen as a persecuted minority and was seen as a threat by the Roman Empire. But with the advent of time during the Middle Ages, the church and the state became one and the same thing, and the Pope became the head of the church as well as the head of the state, and he started controlling the entire state and the church. So at that time, the large number of land and property came under the ambit of Pope, and the economy was significantly impacted by the church. But with the advent of Protestant reforms, new churches were established which said that they would be completely separate from the church and would focus on the ideas of God. So with the advent of time, the church started becoming more secular and the states became completely secular, and this impact led to the idea that the church and the state are different, and it also diminished the grasp of church from the state. So in the modern time, the church and state are completely separate. However, churches still play a major role in regulating the conduct of people on social and moral issues. One of the other things that we can talk about while discussing the notion of justice is the role of an individual. So, like the other religions of the world, Christianity also works towards shaping the life of an individual and provide him or her with love and peace. And it is very interesting to understand the fact that Bible does not talk about the role of an individual, but there are certain instances wherein it is talked about the way an individual should carry himself while dealing with the Almighty and the individual's relationship with the Almighty. For example, the on the Mount. The Sermon on the Mount talks about that the individual should love their enemies and forgive those who wrong them and turn the other cheek. So somewhere or the other there are various other sermons which talks about the role of an individual and the way they should conduct themselves while dealing with others. The other thing that is to be noticed down is that Christianity is basically focused and revolves around the idea of a church. So a church is a place which provides a community for worship and learning. And when people gather in this community, it is taught that the individual should have a personal relationship with God, while at the same time should have a relationship with the members of the community as well. So it talks about attending the church regularly and helping the people who are in need. Similarly, the church also talks about the idea that the person should have open heart and should behave morally all the time. But many things have changed with the advent and rise of technology. With the industrial revolution and the world seeing a lot of changes in technology, the life of humans have become easier. But at the same time, there are different conflicts that have been created with the use of technology. Some people believe that technology plays a destructive role, while the other people believe that they have improved the life of individuals in not many sense. Now, Christianity comes from a traditional sense where there was no technology as such, and therefore a large number of Christians believe that technology is a destructive thing, whereas other Christians believe that if used wisely and ethically, then technology is one of the boon given to the mankind. So the ancient traditional view believed that the people are made by God and therefore the entire dignity and their worth is dependent on the God, regardless of what their race, ethnicity, gender or the social status is. But with this advent of technology, the thing and the philosophy, the basic premise of philosophy, which was about love thy neighbor, has completely changed, because with the advent of technology there is a lot of misspread of information, and at the same time there is problems of the spread and promotion of violence, which have made people less trustworthy to their partners or the other people. At the same time, a lot many people have been brainwashed. For example, during COVID, there was a lot of misinformation that was being spread, which has led to people moving away from the idea of love thy neighbor. At the same time, the technology has created various conflicts for children as well, and have led to the exploitation of their privacy as well as the privacy of the adults at the same time. Therefore, there are different contradictory views when it comes to technology, as it is believed that it is a good thing as well as a bad thing at the same time. However, what is the recent trend is that the Christian churches have started using technology to promote the word of God and to create a systematic and balanced idea of spreading Christianity by use of technology. So when we talk about the future of technology or the future of justice in Christianity, we can say that the traditional approach has slowly been converted and have been changed with the advent of time by inculcating the ideas of different aspects and different things that they were present. Like the modern idea of Christianity talks about the notion of justice and a move towards a different and a contemporary notion, wherein Christian view have adopted the idea of technology, the idea of social justice, the idea of LGBTQ plus rights, and the idea of a globalized and an interfaith religious dialogues. So it is very much possible that with the advent of time, Christianity might see a different change in the idea of the concept of justice. So justice is the central part of Christianity, and Christianity has, even though changed from its traditional to a contemporary view, but the central idea of justice is still intact. And at the same time, the community has completely evolved, and the practices that were there are a lot changed from as they were practiced in the traditional era, but still revolves and focuses around the idea of justice. So Christianity basically talks about the role of an individual, but at the same time, with the advent of globalization, the traditional view have changed to the idea of a society at large, and the future of Christianity seems like that it will also see a lot of change with the idea and growth of technology, but it is very much possible that it is going to revolve and live around the fact that Christianity will tackle the problems faced by the idea and the words of Jesus. To conclude, we can say that Christianity has faced various problems and has shown a complete transformation from its original biblical idea by inculcating the ideas and teachings of Jesus, who was all about love, compassion, mercy, and call to action, and have completely changed its focus from an individual to the society at large, and thus focusing on the social justice. But with the advent of technology, Christianity in the modern time is facing more challenges, and with the growth of artificial intelligence and the connectivity of the world, that is the complete globalization, the technological globalization, it is going to face various more challenges. But it is very much evident to say that all these challenges would be overcome by following the basic tenets of Christianity and the teachings of Jesus, which was all about love, mercy, compassion, and call to action. And therefore, the Christian notion of justice might see a shift in the coming future, but that shift will also inculcate the basic tenets of Christian notion of justice, which follows the idea of reformation and retribution. Thank you so much.